If you are not starting your NFL handicapping week right here, I don't know what you're doing. It's Opening Line Report, the NFL Opening Line Report on WagerTalk TV, and alongside me is Teddy Covers. And Teddy, we're excited. The season continues to roll on right here, my friend. And I guess we'll start with the way we like to start is let's take stock in what we saw last week, what we can use to learn. Teddy, how are you doing on a Monday morning first? And what did we learn in week one, brother?
Well, the season continues to roll on. It's week 2 of the preseason, brother. there's 1 week in the books, and there's a lot to talk about what we saw this past weekend. I split out for the clients, and I'm kicking myself 15 different ways. There were a couple of bets that I should have had and didn't. I played conservative in a week that I should have played a little bit more aggressively, and unfortunately, it cost me. That being said, no harm, no foul. 1-1. We'll eat the juice for this one, and I think there are some pretty good opportunities on the board for this coming week. You talked about a little recap at the top. And let's not forget, last year, 2025, had the highest scoring week 1 preseason ever. And everything flew over the total. And then the Hall of Fame game, 33-30, the highest Hall of Fame game ever. So, highest scoring Hall of Fame games. Then what happened this past weekend? Unders go 12-4. And the markets overreact. And the bettors who are looking at unders did very, very well this past weekend. In addition, underdogs. We talked about a lot of games, and we look at the board this week. Everything's opening up. The favorites are 1.5/2.5 point favorites. The markets are moving them higher in a few instances, but just about everything lined at a field goal or less. Well, even with the short point spreads, and last week a number of games got bet up. At the close, underdogs 12-4 ATS. And 2 of the favorites that covered were Minnesota, who were like -1/pick'em, and the Chargers were -1/pick'em. So really, at +2 or higher, underdogs last week, 10-2 against the spread, 83% ATS. So if you were taking points, you had a real nice weekend.
Yeah, and we'll see, is that reflected in the odds this week? As if it's your first time joining us for the Opening Line Report, we greatly appreciate it. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you're on Twitter, head on over to YouTube. Check out the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. But you can keep those comments coming all show long and after the show. And Teddy and I will be responding to them throughout the week. But if your first time joining us, we run down every single game. You want to keep your pen and paper handy because Teddy will let you know if we have emergency betting alerts. That is games that are Teddy believes are going to move. And if you want to bet them, you better bet them now. We'll let you know when those come up. Teddy, before we get into the games, you got anything for the folks?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, when it comes to the emergency betting alerts and the like, in the preseason, sometimes these games go crazy. And the markets are going to move on information. None of these moves are about opinions about how good the teams are. And the lines move significantly because it doesn't take all that much to move a preseason NFL game compared to what it takes in the market. The bookmakers are ready to move these numbers. So be aware the markets will jump around over the course of the next 24 hours, and they'll jump around all week based on the information. What I'm going to do here on this show today is talk about what's likely to affect the numbers, what has affected what happened this past weekend that we can learn from. But as much as any other factor, anything I'm going to say, this is not a pick show. Okay, I'm going to give numbers where the market's going to move. This is a show about the betting marketplace and how to understand and conceptualize and recognize what's going on and what are the forces that are moving numbers in the NFL betting marketplace. So if you want a pick show, WagerTalk has a ton of them. By all means, check them out. I've got free pick videos every day. All right, you can go to my homepage, wt.buzz/TC. But this show is about information more than picks. So we appreciate all of your support.
Yeah, and Teddy, I think that's a great point for especially NFL bettors. People are so obsessed with the names on the back of the jerseys. Like, yes, we give you information on what's going on in the locker rooms, but this show and really your handicapping approach is all about what are the numbers. These are numbers that Teddy thinks are going to move. It's all about information. And again, guys, you like pick shows, Teddy said it. So hit the subscribe button. You will have picks on every single NFL game for free if you want them. And we'll let you know how to save money on the client plays as well. Also, WagerTalk today that follows this show. We give out a hell of a lot of picks with great guests. Teddy's one that comes on every Friday. But Teddy, enough about that. People are here for the information. Let's do it, buddy. Let's start it off here. We got Vegas taking on Houston. And Teddy, one thing that I think we'll talk about, or you'll especially talk about throughout this show, is rookie quarterbacks. What did we learn with rookie quarterbacks? And none higher than the number 1 overall pick in the draft, Las Vegas Raiders and Francisco Mendoza. People have the fever, Teddy. They're taking on the Texans, who before this last week, they were a darling in the NFL preseason. So Raiders, Texans, how are you looking to see this one, Teddy?
And I encourage you guys, follow us on the Odds Logic live odds screen. You can use the free odds at WagerTalk.com. We have the best free odds, really the best free odds out there. It's an impressive free odds. And if you want oddslogic.com/Teddy, get your free 7-day trial of the oddslogic.com product, which is, lifetime numbers that are helpful on a show like this one. So we'll be looking at the Odds Logic live odds screen throughout. Right now, we've seen the early money come for the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders now -1.5, pretty much across the board. There were ones out there earlier. There's still a 1 at MGM as we speak. Total sitting 37.5 against the Texans. And you asked me about Fernando Mendoza, and I would give Mendoza a solid B. The touchdown drive, I thought Mendoza made a couple of really nice throws. And in a 1st and goal scenario, they had a negative play, and he made 2 nice plays to lead up to the 3rd down touchdown. There were upsides for Fernando Mendoza. Downsides, he wasn't great. And with the exception of the one good drive, he struggled a little bit under pressure. I didn't see any arm strength. Mendoza wasn't chucking it downfield. We like the attitude. We like the composure when it comes to a QB debut that we're like, oh, yeah, this guy's got it. Again, the Raiders will be happiest if Fernando Mendoza is on the bench until December and Kirk Cousins is starting. Kirk Cousins came out and led a nice drive for the Raiders to start the ballgame. He may do more of the same here. Aiden O'Connell came in late, and Aiden O'Connell showed why he hasn't played much since he was forced into emergency duty as a rookie. He did not look good. I'm not convinced he's going to make the team. As for the Texans, they have been real good. You talked about it. Dan, they went 5-1 in the last 6 preseason games under DeMeco Ryans, and the Chargers just killed them. Davis Mills was fine, and then Graham Mertz came in, and Mills started, threw a touchdown in the first series, which he played with the starting offensive line, and then the backups came in, and the backups did not block well. The offensive line depth could be a concern here for Houston. The frontline starters were fine, but Mills had a sacked fumble. The team got stuffed on 4th and inches. And then Graham Mertz came in and tore his ACL, and which forced Mills back into the game for the second half. And they really didn't do a whole lot in the second half of that ball game. Now, it's worth noting, Mertz got hurt, out for the season. Last week, they hosted 2 quarterbacks, Jake Haener and Seth Hennigan. So you figure they're going to sign one of the 2? No. They're like, no, we don't want either one of those guys. Let's bring in Brett Ripien. So Ripien could play this week. He played with the Bengals and the Colts and the Vikings in recent seasons. He's been around the block, but as to how well he's going to know the offense for Houston in his his first game with the team, how much playing time he's going to get, the betting markets are putting Vegas as the favorite here for a reason. There are issues at the backup QB position right now for the Houston Texans.
Yeah, you come in for a tryout and get pivoted to Ripien. That's got to be a tough pill to swallow. That's for sure for the 2 guys that they brought in.
But
he's got experience.
Seth Hennigan's supposed to be the guy since, I remember in college he was supposed to be the guy, and he never was. Yep. Jake Haener was at least okay. Was he play Fresno?
Yeah, I think they're right. I think you're right. Yeah. Well, Teddy, we'll keep on rolling. Surprising. Only 2 games for Thursday and this other game that we have. And yes, folks, I know at the top I said Francisco Mendoza. I got San Francisco on the mind as they're playing the Chargers. Comment below. Dan, know these guys' names. Drop the comments below. But Teddy, San Francisco taking on the LA Chargers. Chargers substation. There might be something there, Teddy. But Chargers, 1.5 point favorites. We're looking at 39.5. This one, not much movement, at least what I'm seeing here on the odds screen, Teddy. What are you seeing?
I would not be surprised to see a little bit of Chargers money. But again, the favorites aren't going to get bet up that high. But for the Chargers, you had Trey Lance and DJ Uiagalelei. Both of whom were impressive. The offensive line held up. that pair, Lance and Ugalele, like 9.8 yards per pass attempt. They only got sacked twice. And that was Lance dancing around both times. I watched a ton of preseason football this year, this past weekend. So it really, like, the offensive line held up very well for the Chargers. There were a lot of concerns about that. And it's worth noting now, we don't think of the Chargers as one of these bet-on teams in the preseason. They have now scored 22 points or more in each of the last 6 preseason games. That dates back to 2024. And 5 overs during that span, 5-1 to the over for the Chargers. It would have been 6-0 to the over if the Texans could have done anything offensively. But Houston only scored a single TD. And of course, they lost their backup quarterback before halftime. So, but the Chargers certainly have been trending heavily to the over. As for the 49ers, Curtis Rourke had a great first half. He was a 7th-round pick in 25. Missed all last season recovering from knee surgery. And then, of course, he left the game with a rib injury. Don't know if he's going to be able to play. He didn't practice after leaving the preseason opener over the weekend. Adrian Martinez moved the football all day, but he got stuffed on 4th down. They settled for field goal. Shanahan doesn't care. When you look at the 49ers right now, here's one of those trends that are worth paying attention to. The last 10 preseason games for San Francisco, the underdogs 9-1 ATS. And of course, that has something to do with the closing number. They covered by a hook against the closing number. The Texans, if you bet them early, you laid, you got Tennessee as an underdog. If you bet them late, plus 6.5, they only lost by 6. But at the closing number, San Fran 9-1 ATS last 10 preseason games. For the dog, doesn't matter if the 49ers are favorites or underdog. The dogs have been cashing their dogs in this one.
Teddy, we'll move on here to the Friday card. 3 games on the Friday card here. And we talked about, hey, how did rookies look? Well, this is a game that everyone is talking at least about one of the rookies. Drew Aller. Hey, the new era has started in Pittsburgh. They're 3.5 point favorites as they're taking on the Jets, who Klubnik saw some action as well. Jets this morning, worth mentioning, there were some reports. Breece Hall apparently went down at practice, wasn't hit or anything, just went down. Aaron Glenn came out and said it's kind of a nothing burger, but something to monitor moving forward as we head towards the regular season. Running back Breece Hall going down at practice. But as far as this game is concerned, Teddy, 39.5 is what we're looking at for the total. What do you see in this one?
So it's very important. Of all the things I'm going to say in the show today, this is maybe the most important thing I'm going to say. When evaluating rookie quarterbacks, pay attention to what defense they're facing. Cade Klubnik was playing against first-string defenders, and he struggled. Drew Aller came in the second half against the guys who are going to make practice squads, and his receivers made plays, and Aller's box score looks good, and Klubnik's box score looks bad, right? You say, oh, my God, Aller, he's the man. No, Aller's receivers had a couple of catch and runs on simple routes for a rookie QB making his NFL debut against defenders, against a vanilla defense for defenders that aren't going to be there. So, like, of all the tap the brakes, the Drew Aller tap the brakes is pretty high for me. All right, yeah, he had a good debut. He certainly did. But he didn't play against a whole lot of guys who were going to be facing. He didn't play a whole lot of defenses he's going to see on a real Sunday, or a whole lot of players that he's going to see on a Sunday. Meanwhile, Klubnik led the team to a field goal and a touchdown on his first 2 drives. It was only 2 drives. They didn't make mistakes, kept the chains moving, was solid. Garrett Wilson was the guy I was impressed with in that game. Garrett Wilson had a couple of wow grabs, And of course, the Jets took a 10-0 lead and then were outscored 24-6 the rest of the way. Bailey Zappi threw a pick 6. It wasn't pretty for the Jets offensively once the starters left the ball game. For Pittsburgh, it was Mason Rudolph, then Will Howard, then Drew Aller. And of course, I thought Rudolph looked pretty good. Howard was fine. And, Aller got a couple of touchdowns. Mike McCarthy's quote worth noting. I thought they were very poised. I like the way the quarterbacks played, especially the young guys, meaning Howard and Aller. We'll probably see a lot of them this week. And of course, this is a battle of 3 QBs for 2 spots. So we're likely to see a lot of Howard, Aller, and Rudolph, and not any Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers said this past week, quote, he doesn't think he needs to play during his 22nd training camp. Worth noting, the Steelers 11 penalties for 135 yards. That's been a problem for Mike McCarthy's teams over the years.
Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I feel like preseason work not in his contract for sure. He says, I'll see you when I see you. Teddy, Carolina and Jacksonville. Bryce Young and that offense looked like they were in midseason form with, I think it was 3 drives and 3 and outs. So looking right on cue there. They're taking on Jacksonville, and Jacksonville we're seeing 3.5 in this one, Teddy. So similar line to what we saw in the last one, same total that we saw in the last one. So they're starting to settle in to this kind of being the total setting as the unders cashed in. Teddy, how are you looking to break down this one?
Yeah, I mean, so the stuff on the margins here, there's not a lot of margin. Your totals are going to go from like 36.5 to like 40.5. It's a real narrow range that we're seeing totals in. Sides wise, again, most of the you're seeing 1.5, 2.5 for the vast majority of games. And then the bettors are saying this is the wrong number, or we need to price this higher, or the price is lower. But the bookmakers are just putting up numbers and throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks. That being said, this is one game that has moved already, and I think it's worth emergency betting alert because there are still some 3s, there are still some 2s with juice out there. We know the money's coming for Jacksonville in this ballgame. Let's get the doodly-oop going. Yeah, we do expect money for the Jags. We've already seen money for the Jags. Some of this is anti-Carolina. It's worth noting. Bryce Young, 3 drives against the Bills. They didn't score any points. They didn't score any first downs. It was 3 and outs for Carolina starting offense. It's a revamped offensive line for Carolina, but both projected starting tackles sidelined with injuries. Both starting guards sat this past week and may not play again this week. Bryce Young's quote, obviously not the start we wanted, not the drives we wanted, just part of the process, a lot of moving parts. Everyone's going to feel it on the plane back. And you come back, you watch it, you learn from it, you grow, you turn the page. Kenny Pickett was next. He had a touchdown on the 2-minute drill. They didn't score again until the 2-minute drill of the fourth quarter with Kyle Trask behind center. The market's worried about Carolina's offensive line, and Carolina certainly for a first game of the preseason, not all that impressive in the loss to the Bills. The Bills pretty much dominated that game. That being said, Jacksonville didn't do a whole lot either. We could see, and the markets are telling us we're likely to see Trevor Lawrence this week. Week 2 of the preseason is a time we're going to see some teams play their starters. Some of them will play starters for extended stretches. And those are the games that are going to move from 2.5 to 6.5 over the course of the next couple of days. But the Jaguars had a nothing burger in the first half against the Saints, and then 18-0 second half. Nick Mullins, Carter Bradley, and one big play from Joey Aguiar in the fourth quarter set up the game-winning touchdown. But again, we could see Trevor Lawrence go this week. I think that's what the markets are reacting to with the early Jacksonville money. But if you like the Jags, you can still find a 3 right now. I'm not convinced it's going to be there even an hour from now. So that's why we emergency betting alerted, because of the number. When you see a number that's available that's not going to be available, we need to talk about it.
Emergency betting alert number 1 of NFL preseason week 2. That is the Jags. Grab them now if you want them, because the 3s ain't going to last, according to our man Teddy Covers. Go ahead, Teddy.
And it's definitely worth noting. For the emergency betting alert, it doesn't mean you have to bet Jacksonville. It also means don't bet Carolina now. If you like Carolina, wait. The 3.5s that are out there could go up even more. So you can bet it later today. You can bet it, but I don't think that if one of the emergency betting alert, the concept is this line is on the move. If you want this side, grab it. If you want the other side,
take a deep breath and wait. And it is, Teddy, you preface it every time. You say, if you like X now, bet it now. So definitely a good teaching point there as we head towards the regular season as well. When we do these emergency betting alerts, doesn't mean, oh my God, Teddy said I have to bet this game. It means, hey, this line won't be there. And if it's the other side, there you go. Great teaching point there, Teddy. All right, final game of Friday, and then we'll talk about some of the things Teddy has up for you, potential clients over at his page. You're going to want to pay attention to that. But Green Bay and Denver 4.5. I'm seeing a 5.5 here, Teddy. 39.5 is what we're looking at here for the total. Denver is one of those teams that Sean Payton has been loud and proud about. We care about the NFL preseason. And I think it shows up in the results in these games, Teddy. So Green Bay, they had a huge line move with them because, the starters are all going to play against the Steelers. And yeah, how did that work out for Jordan Love and co, Teddy? Green Bay, Denver. How are you betting this one to wrap up Friday?
Jordan Love was 3 of 5 during his one series of work. Ended up with a field goal.
Exactly.
And then Tyrod Taylor came in, and then Kyle McCord came in, and Kyron Drones came in late. He only had one throw. I would not be surprised if Drones gets a little bit more playing time this week. The big story for the Packers was the kicker. Trey Smack hit the 3 field goal. He hit a pair of 58-yarders. One of them got called back on a penalty. Actually, was called back on a Steelers penalty, and they ended up getting a shorter field goal later in the drive But the kicker was very good for Green Bay. I thought the Packers, the market thought the Packers were going to be blitzing under Jonathan Gannon, and they didn't really blitz. They played mostly vanilla in this ball game. They got bombed in the preseason opener last year, Green Bay did, and then won the last 2, including a comfortable win at 6-point dogs. They haven't lost 2 consecutive preseason games under LaFleur since 2021, 3-0 off a loss in the preseason. So there are some arrows pointed towards Green Bay in this one. That being said, the Broncos 7-0 straight up, 7-0 against the spread in August over the last 3 years. They returned 20 of the 22 starters from a team that made the AFC Championship game. They have veteran quarterbacks in Stidham and Allinger. Not a lot of roster spots in play for this team. The big issue in their game, they had a 97-yard pick 6, which made the final score, 27-7. Made the whole game. It changed the whole portion of the game, but they were in control before that 97-yard pick 6. Bo Nix expected to make his preseason debut against the Packers here, yet the market's not showing a lot of enthusiasm for Denver just yet, despite the success of Peyton and the return of Nix. They're expecting a little bit better performance here from the Packers than what we just saw.
Teddy, huge 10-game slate for Saturday. I'm sure you're going to be able to find some potential plays for clients on that big card. But Teddy, WT.buzz/TC before we run down these 10 games. There's also one on Sunday for the Hard Knocks crew that we'll talk about. But what do you got rocking over at your page? I know week 1, you said kind of a bit of a kiss your sister week, but week 2, firing a little bit more. What are you looking for the clients as we move forward?
Yeah, well, we'll be in action in NFL preseason. Obviously, that's not posted yet. I got to do the show first before we post NFL football in general. I am in play in baseball. Obviously, the season win report is up. But what I want to talk about is the full season NFL, guys. Really, that's if you want to partner up this year, all right? I'm hungry. I'm focused. I'm pissed off at not underachieving last year. I'm ready to win. Take $50 off my full season. You get the NFL win report. You get every play from the preseason this week right through the Super Bowl. There's nothing more to buy. There's no bait and switch. There's no nonsense. It's priced at $5.99. Full season NFL. Take $50 off. Promo code TEDDY50 at checkout. Again, TEDDY50 at checkout. We'll get you the full NFL season. $5.49 includes the win report, which is priced at $1.99. It includes the Super Bowl and includes everything in between. So check it out on my homepage, WT.buzz/TC. And I want to ask you, Dan, are we talking about Splash Sports and that Survivor contest? We got a graphic for that?
Yeah, how crazy is that this contest that we have coming here for Splash? I believe you use code WagerTalk. I'll grab the code here for you. But Teddy, you're competing in it. Andy Lang is in it. Steve Merrill is in it. So if you think you have what it takes to go toe-to-toe, a huge contest here at Splash Sports. And Teddy, tell them about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's $21 million. There's obviously a Survivor. And look, Survivor makes us all crazy. I don't even know if it's mentally worth it, but I'm going to do it. Let's try it. I may use the Raiders in week 1, so it'll either end early or I'll have a win with a team that I'll never find a way to use in another game. But it's real simple. All right, there's a guaranteed prize pool of $21 million. $21 million guaranteed. 35 states. And, oh, by the way, you don't have to live in one of those states. Nevada's not one of those states. All you do is cross the border, sign up, get registered, come back, you make picks all year. So I'm in it. You're in it. Check it out. Promo code WagerTalk. For the splashsports.com/WagerTalk, promo WagerTalk or password WagerTalk. To take advantage. You get $100 back with that particular offer.
Yep, and there it is. Code WagerTalk, password WagerTalk. You get a $100 bonus that you can use on any other contest. So Teddy's in it. I'm in it. You should be in it as well. Check it out, splashboards.com. And Teddy, let's keep it rocking, brother. Saturday, this huge slate. We'll start off here with Washington taking on Detroit. Bit of a scare for Washington as their backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota. He leaves a little early in that game, Teddy. Seems like he should be fine, but as far as this game is concerned, we're seeing 2.5s, 3s. How are you looking to break this one?
Yeah, and I thought about emergency betting alert Detroit at 2.5, but I'm not convinced it's going to go to 3. Even with the Mariota injury, the Commanders lost to Marcus Mariota for the rest of the preseason. Obviously, he's been a real valuable backup for Jaden Daniels. He played for 11 games last year. He's dealt with injuries the last 2 training camps. We saw a lot of Sam Hartman. We saw a lot of Ethan Kalamanis. The kid out of Rutgers. He had 1 field goal drive after an interception. He didn't gain a first down. He wasn't very good. Hartman had a pair of touchdown drives. Washington did control the game once both teams turned to reserves, a positive sign for their depth this year. And the Lions, of course, came through the back door with 1.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, -2 in turnovers. Still covers Luke Altmaier with the guy who got most of the playing time. Josh Dobbs split snaps with Altmaier in the first half, ended up with 32 passing yards. It was not an impressive showing for Detroit, but they did come through the back door, and this is likely to be a very different week. We'll see if we see Goff this time around. The markets are saying we might.
All right, Teddy, let's keep rocking on down here. Atlanta taking on Indianapolis. Indianapolis, we're seeing 2.5s, it looks like, pretty much across the board. Totals a little bit different, point different here, 36.5, 37.5. Tua fumbling the ball, Teddy. A tale as old as time. At least he fell on this one, man. So Falcons getting rolled to start off their preseason. How do you see it shaking out in week 2?
Yeah, a little bit of urgency for Atlanta this week, for what it's worth. And I've seen a lot of 1.5s. I'm seeing 1.5/2/2.5 for the Colts, 37.5, the prevailing number. I'm seeing some 37s, even some 36.5s for that total. So a little bit of variance for the Falcons and Indy. Let's talk about Tua for a minute, okay? Mm-hmm. Because everyone's freaking out. Oh, Tua was terrible. Remember, Tua didn't even get into practice until last week. All right, he'd been dealing with his own injury issues, just like Penix had, and I think he had 3 or 4 practices, and then that was it. Boom, let's put you in the game. And he finished 3 of 5 with 22 yards. The only guy he threw to was Kyle Pitts. He had a shotgun fumble. Everyone's like, "Oh, Tua was terrible." Settle down. Tua didn't practice. They threw him in. He wasn't very good with this. It's not a scenario where I'm like, oh, Atlanta's falling apart. Oh my God, he played 9 plays. Kevin Stefanski, quote, "I evaluate the entire offense. So we didn't move the ball well enough with an offense. Certainly there's some things we can clean up. We did drop a snap out there. Little plays we continue to work on. We had hard to give a grade on that fewest amount of a sample size. The bigger issue was Cooper Rush wasn't any good, who they just signed last week. Cooper Rush, 7 of 19 for 62 yards and 2 picks, including that 96-yard pick 6 in that ballgame. The third quarterback, undrafted rookie Jack Strand. This guy's supposed to be a developmental QB, instead he's playing the second half. So, the only Atlanta touchdown came because of a Broncos fumble on a 17-yard drive. I want no part of this team right now. As for Indy, that was a tough beat if you had Indy. They were -4 in turnovers. They fumbled at the 1. They did survive a late 49-yard field goal miss that would have given New England the victory, but they were better than the Patriots in that game and didn't cover the number. When you're -4 in turnovers and you fumble at the 1, it's hard to do that. Anthony Richardson, his interception hit the receiver in the hands. Richardson gets the pick, but it hit his receiver in the hands. And the fumble, his knee was like quarter inch from being down. Again, they're -4 in turnovers. Until pushed, Riley Leonard played the whole second half of that ballgame. We'll likely to see a lot of Riley Leonard in this one. I would not be shocked if we see at least a little bit of Indy money. I'm not sure the 1.5s are going to hold.
All right, Teddy, 415, 416, Baltimore, Minnesota. If you would have told me in 2017, Teddy, that Carson Wentz would be seeing deep action for the Minnesota Vikings in preseason games, I would have said you're high. You're absolutely insane. But that is the trajectory of Carson Wentz's career. They're going to be about 3-point favorites, 2.5 in one spot. We're looking at 37.5. Baltimore looked great in their first outing However, I'm an Eagles fan. I will say I think that may have had more to do with Philadelphia's side of the ledger than Baltimore being bang on. But they did, Teddy, for all intents and purposes, they dominated that game.
How about this? Before the last Philly drive, the Ravens had a 30-2 first down edge. That's domination, all right? 30-2. You know, or you keep hearing about Jacoby Lane. He had scored a touchdown. He's had the best training camp of any rookie receiver out there. Baltimore was -2 in turnovers and still controlled the flow. Tyler Huntley had one good drive. Then Joe Fagnano, the pride of UConn with the unfortunate last name. He's still better than Schlittler. But Fagnano had a great pro debut. Again, a vanilla defense, but no negative plays. And he was taking his shots downfield. He wasn't holding the football. Austin Reed with the touchdown drive in the fourth quarter as well, the pride of West Kentucky. He was at Bears camp last year. And then he had 10 starts for the Dallas Renegades in the UFL this past spring. As for Minnesota, Kyler Murray led the Vikings to a field goal on his only drive of the game. Finished with 2 completions, 3 attempts, 10 yards, no scrambles. There wasn't a whole lot in that. J.J. McCarthy came in and had 3 series and 3 punts. Then Carson Wentz. Then Max Brosmer. Then Brosmer got hurt and Wentz came back in. And Brosmer has a bad thumb. I think he's out for the preseason. He lasted only 3 plays in that ballgame. Wentz returned and played the fourth quarter. But he probably got a little bit more playing time. They didn't have anything designed for him in that fourth quarter there. So wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of Baltimore money, but it's nothing that, we have Carson Wentz playing in the second half of games. That tends to be a bet on QB rotation. Handful of those to talk about here on Saturday.
Yeah, and let's talk about another one here, Teddy, who we saw Josh Allen seeing some action and then good action in this Buffalo Bills first game there. Buffalo taking on Cleveland. Cleveland home, so you're seeing 1.5. 39.5, 40.5 is what we're looking at on the total. I'll tell you what, Teddy, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you better hope that the starting offensive line is better than the backup, because that was tough to watch. That was tough to watch, Teddy. And if we see that again, Buffalo Bills, regardless who's in, they should be able to get some pressure on this quarterback rotation. How do you see this one shaking out?
Note this total. This total is as high as anyone out there. And I would not be surprised at all if we see some over money for Buffalo and Cleveland. I'm seeing 40.5s out there, 39.5 the prevailing number. The Bills, Josh Allen, 2 drives, a field goal and a touchdown. Defense forced 3 punts on 3 3-and-outs with Bryce Young in the ballgame. Now, admittedly, Carolina didn't have any starting other offensive linemen on there, but the defense played well, and Josh Allen played well. And then Kyle Allen came in and played well. And then Shane Buechele came in and played for Kansas City last year and played well. So we're talking about from a backup quarterback position for Buffalo, 2 veteran guys that are, one's 30, one's 28. There's not a developmental quarterback scenario for Buffalo. They're like, we want to win the Super Bowl this year. If our quarterback gets hurt, we need to have veteran guys who can do it. So from a QB rotation standpoint, the Bills, as good as it gets. So the Browns, really, because you have everyone fighting for a job and a playing time. But, as you talked about, that backup offensive line did not hold up well. Deshaun Watson under pressure. Sanders and Gabriel in particular were under a lot of pressure. The starting receivers didn't do a whole lot. Deshaun was holding up, but he had no open receivers. Again and again, he was holding the ball too long. The backup defense was pretty awful. But that game for Cleveland switcher, but they're down 17-10. It's the third quarter. They're 4th and 1 from the Bears 5, and they got stuffed on that play and they got blown out the rest of the way. By the way, this is he's going to be the starter quote from Todd Monken about Deshaun Watson. Quote, "It was awesome. It was so cool to watch Watson play. I get all the frustration by fans himself, but for him to come back and work like he did is an unbelievable credit to him. And to go out there, he was having fun today, and that is so cool. I thought he really functioned at a high level. Surely we don't want to be taking time out. We sure as heck can't delay of games, okay? But it was fun watching him play and watching us put the next step forward and see where we're at." Bills and Browns have joint practices this week. It's worth noting, teams that dominate the joint practice don't necessarily dominate the games.
Yeah, a lot of these coaches, Teddy, I think we're learning it more and more, and we'll talk about it when we talk the Eagles in a few games here. A lot of them, they put a lot more stock into those joint practices. They're not getting filmed. They're not putting anything on tape for anyone. So that's definitely something that some of these coaches, they show you, here's where we care. And I think that's where you can maybe make some money. Daddy, New Orleans and the LA Rams. We had a comment here. Titan CT was checking in saying Saints looked good in the first half. And you got the New Orleans Saints up to 2.5 over at the Blue Book. 37.5 is what we're looking at the total across the board. The Rams have bigger designs this season, Teddy, it seems, than success in the preseason. Or at least that it looks like that's what McVay is saying as far as how much we saw of starters in the Rams' first preseason game. Think that changes here in game 2, and how are you looking to bet this one?
So I think that changes in game 2. No, I do not.
Okay.
John McVay couldn't. I mean, and that I'm kicking myself because I wanted to bet against Kansas City as a favorite, but I just couldn't make a case for the Rams. I'm like, the Chiefs can't be laying. Chiefs can't be laying. Chiefs can't be laying. Chiefs couldn't be laying. Didn't matter. If I couldn't make a case for the Rams made a case for themselves. As for the Saints, you're absolutely right. Spencer Rattler, then Zach Wilson. They were a bet-on duo in the first half. They led by 2 touchdowns at the break. Now, admittedly, one of them one TD came after an 86 yards opening kick return. It wasn't much of a drive, but Rattler and Wilson were bet on. Hunter Deckers played the second half. And, of course, Deckers is one of those guys who was at Iowa State and then got suspended for the betting scandal when they were betting on Iowa State games back in like 2022 or 2023. I remember the scandal. I don't remember that much. Anyhow, he had 4 starts for the Houston Gamblers in the UFL this last spring. I would call him necessarily a bet on QB. And obviously the Saints outclassed pretty badly in the second half of that ball game. Certainly a concern here. As for the Rams, Stetson Bennett, Ty Simpson. Simpson was fine, but I mean, again, there were no first teamers on the field for the Rams. There were really no second stringers on the field. Most of the guys in the Rams throughout that ball game were guys that are going to get cut, guys that are going to make practice squads. And, it's hard for me to make a case to put your money on teams like that, although I'm not sure that Deckers is the QB that we want our money on in the second half for New Orleans either.
Also, Teddy, it's just like you get suspended for a gambling scandal and then you end up playing for the Houston Gamblers. It's just, sometimes life is stranger than fiction, my friend. 5 games left here on the Saturday card. We'll talk Giants in Miami. But folks, hanging out here with us, hit that like button and please subscribe. Help us grow this show. We want to help you make the best NFL bets you can. And starting your week handicapping here on Opening Line Report, truly, it's the best way to do that, Teddy. So Giants and Miami, one of the most familiar sights. We talk about, Tua fumbling in the preseason. That Jackson Dart and his love affair with that blue medical tent, man. That is, if Jackson Dart is on the field, we need some props. How often will he go to the medical tent? He ends up being fine, but gets knocked back, man. That hit was tough. Has to get checked out there. They're taking on the new look Miami Dolphins. You're seeing Giants as road chalk in this one. That's how it opened, Teddy. So we're seeing 1.5 pretty much across the board here. How are you seeing this one shaking out?
Yeah, I'm tempted to doodly-oop here because I think the Giants are going to take money. Let's do it. I mean, doodly-oop me.
Oh, I got you, Teddy. Yay!
Yeah. So if the money's going to come here, it's going to come for the G-men. We're not going to see Miami money. Malik Willis had one really nice drive to open the game and scored a touchdown. And after that, Quinn Ewers went 1 of 8, and Cam Miller out of North Dakota State went 3 of 11, threw a couple of picks. I mean, once the 2 teams turned to reserves, Washington dominated Miami. The Dolphins finished only 10 first downs and 3 turnovers. And Jeff Hafley said it. He's still in installs for the Dolphins. So I'm not anticipating a lot from Miami. Their depth isn't there. As the Giants, Jackson Dart was in for 2 series, got knocked out with concussion in the first, and then came back, lead a touchdown drive in the second. That was the only touchdown they scored. Jameis Winston had a field goal drive in the 2-minute drill before halftime, then 3 and out in the first drive of the second half. Brandon Allen was pretty awful as the third quarterback. Offensive line, the backup offensive line did not play well for the Giants. I'm expecting some improvement in that regard. And again, I would not be surprised at all to see some Giants money. The market's looking for ways to bet against the Dolphins right now, not bet on them.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, Teddy, and we'll keep on rolling here. My Philadelphia Eagles, man, they look good. Teddy talked about the discrepancy, that 30-2. The Eagles didn't have their first down until the 4th quarter. So how about that, folks, as a team that clearly does not care about the preseason? They're taking on New England, and if you just factor that in, 1.5 feels short, right? That's my square handicap here. Eagles don't care. New England's 1.5 point favorites. Total's 37.5. 14.5 here, Teddy. I don't think Sirianni changes his approach to this NFL preseason. He was quoted as saying, I don't want Mannion's offense to be on tape. So do we even know if this is what the Eagles offense is going to look like? How do you see this one shaking out, Teddy?
Before that last drive, for Philadelphia, they're outgained 440 to 159 and had only 2 first downs, as you mentioned. Andy Dalton had a cup of coffee. Tanner McKee had a cup of coffee, but most of the game was Cole Payton, the 5th-round pick out of North Dakota State. And again, he had one drive late in the fourth quarter that did anything. They were +2 turnovers and still got killed. Sirianni doesn't care. That being said, my first note for New England is Vrabel didn't care. 49-yard miss that would have given the Patriots a win. Tommy DeVito, solid backup QB. We like DeVito in a preseason game. But Baron Morton, who played for the second half, he's a developmental QB, and he's no bet on QB for this better. Would not be surprised at all if we see a little bit of under money. The 37.5's out there right now. Neither one of these two teams is primed to light up the scoreboard.
Yeah, two coaches that just don't care. Good old-fashioned poop-off taking place, 7 o'clock. There is a coach who seemed like he cared, and it's the guy who, man, Ben Johnson, the content that this guy gives you from taking off his shirt in the locker room, anytime that they are competing, I don't care if they're playing tiddlywinks. That guy wants his team to win. Cincinnati taking on Chicago. Cincinnati 1.5-point favorites. And Teddy, you mentioned earlier that game that we were, high total, 40.5. We're seeing 41.5 here as Chicago's taking on Cincinnati. How are you looking to break this one?
Yeah. 41 offshore, 41.5 are in the global markets, I should say. DK's at 41.5, Bovada's at 41.5. So they're 41.5 out there. And Ben Johnson did care in that ballgame. Case Keenum played the entire second half. Case Keenum's his bet on gets. Tyson Bagent played the entire first half. He's bet on too. Dennis Allen, not shy about blitzing on defense. The Bears ate up the Browns' offensive line. And we saw play calling from Antoine Randall in the second half. He's a wide receiver coach / assistant head coach. And Ben Johnson said he might experiment with letting other Bears coaches call plays in the preseason. The second half, complete blowout for Chicago, 24 unanswered, 235 yards. The quote from Ben Johnson, I thought he did a phenomenal job. This is about Antoine Randall. Phenomenal job with Case taking the reins and transition over to Miller Moss. Just see how he's trying to stay in their wheelhouse. So the Bears cared. They played like they cared, and they ended up winning by margin. When it comes to Cincinnati, it was Burrow, then Flacco, then Josh Johnson got extended playing time in the fourth quarter. Sean Clifford was 1 of 3 for 2 yards. But the offensive line for Cincinnati got eaten up. Burrow got popped. Flacco didn't get sacked, but he also had 2 rushes for 0 yards. I'll give you a hint. Joe Flacco's not scrambling out of the pocket. Clifford got sacked too. Johnson would have been sacked, but he's faster. Only 3.7 yards per play. The defense allowed a backdoor touchdown inside the 2-minute drill to lose the cover, but that defense did force 3 turnovers. That's something that Cincinnati talked a lot about this offseason that they were able to do in their preseason opener to get the win. They didn't get the cover.
2 games left here on the Saturday card, and then we'll talk the Hard Knocks team. Seattle taking on Tennessee. But, Teddy, sometimes I feel like we maybe overcomplicate things. Why don't we not just bet against the Kansas City Chiefs every single preseason game? If it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck. It's probably Andy Reid in the preseason. 2.5 favorites. You got Tampa Bay taking on Kansas City here. We're seeing 37.5 pretty much across the board here, Teddy. Do we just lay the 2.5 and keep on moving? What do you think about this one?
So here's the issue with why don't we bet against Andy Reid in the preseason, all right, and every single game. Last week, they faced Sean McVay, who cares just as little as Andy Reid does about winning in the preseason. This week, they faced Tampa Bay, who Todd Bowles cares just as less as Andy Reid does.
Gotcha.
We saw Jake Browning, who was expected. Jake Browning's the second stringer. He's expected to start. We tweaked this back. So then you have the third stringer, caught up Bazelak. And what they do, they had a 1 field goal. Jalen Daniels, a rookie out of Kansas, came in the second half. 2 long touchdown drives. He's a run-pass threat. We like QBs like Daniels in the preseason, but not when he has to carry the offense start to finish. Tampa's not an easy team to back either. And that is why this number is as short as it is. That being said, no one would be surprised at all if this line goes to 3. There will be money against KC. And Andy Reid's, again, 0-7 straight up, 0-6-1 against the spread in the preseason since the start of 2024. Justin Fields learning the new offense. Chris Olajuwon's not an NFL quarterback, and we saw lots of Garrett Nussmeier in the second half, and it wasn't pretty. Again, I saw Nussmeier live here at Allegiant Stadium against USC. I said, this guy's no pro, and I don't think he'll ever be a starting quarterback in the NFL. I've been wrong before. That being said, the bunch of penalties for KC, 12 flags, 83 yards. The running back Rashard Smith is going to be hell for sure on the plane ride home. We have to clean those up. So KC, the bigger issue is not that they didn't play well, and they didn't play clean.
All right, Teddy, final game here on Saturday, August 22nd, 4:30, Dallas taking on Arizona. Is Arizona the best offense that we have ever seen in the NFL preseason? I'm, of course, tongue-in-cheek here, but their new head coach clearly has these guys buzzing around. A big score in the Hall of Fame game. They get 27 points in that Raiders game, and they were to start the game, Teddy. They couldn't be stopped, and we kind of expected that Raiders defense. We're seeing 1.5 for Arizona, 37.5. Total. I sound like a broken record giving out 1.5s and 37.5s, Teddy. That's what we've been seeing. How are you betting this one?
So the greatest show on turf had the best preseason offense that I've ever seen, and that tells you how long I've been in Las Vegas. That was the Rams under Dick Vermeil. That being said, let's not forget, all right, the Cardinals scored 30 points in the Hall of Fame game. Then they scored in the first 5 possessions against the Raiders this past week and scored 27 points in that contest. But in both of those games, they were facing the most vanilla defenses they could possibly face. So what we see in Arizona is that, yes, if the opponent plays vanilla defense, they're capable of moving the ball up and down the field. There's a lot of urgency in that regard. By the way, be worried. Pay attention when the headline says LaFleur says Love is hurt, because you don't know if you're talking about Green Bay or Arizona. In this instance, it's Arizona running back. And now that we have the 2 LaFleur brothers as head coaches, and Love, one running back, one quarterback. One in Green Bay, one in Arizona. So when LaFleur says Love is hurt, be aware there's 2 possible teams it could be. In this instance, it's the Arizona team. No Carson Beck, no problem. We saw Brissett and Minshew and Slovis combined 26 of 30. They haven't faced anything vanilla coverage. That being said, that offense will work great. Dallas likely to give, I believe it's Joe Milton's going to get the start this week. Sam Howell got the start this past weekend. And Milton's pretty rough. I don't want my money on him. They played the game this past week. They played the game this next week. I'd rather have Howell in the second half, however. That's when point spreads are covered.
Yeah, that's the thing, folks, is if you see all these, it started playing and everything, you have to cut the game in half. You have to even maybe look at the quarter, because once the second half comes around, Patty said it right there, folks, and a good point. That's where the covers take place. And it kind of ties in here as we talk our final game on the slate. Guys, we do have a little bit of extra time. Guys and gals, folks who are tuning in, if you have any questions for Teddy, this is the time to drop them. We can probably grab 1 or 2 questions before we're done here today. So drop in the comments live here if you have a question for Teddy. It can be preseason. It can be NFL future. We can answer a couple questions after we break down this one. Seattle and Tennessee. Tennessee, 2.5-point favorites. Robert Saleh doing what we expected him to do, firing his team up in the preseason. They get the win. They get the cover. Seattle, 38.5 is the total we're seeing in this one. 4-3-1, 4-3-2 if you like rotation numbers. Teddy, final game on the board. What are we doing here?
Let's do one more emergency betting alert before we're all said and done, because the money here is going to come for Tennessee. There's already been money come in.
Yeah.
So for Seattle, Drew Block played the whole first half. Jalen Milroe played the whole second half, and neither threw downfield at all. 49 net passing yards, 156 total yards, 3 yards per play. That is not a bet on offense. For the Titans, Cam Ward, Will Levis, Mitch Trubisky. You have a backup quarterback battle. You have Hendon Hooker, all veterans for Tennessee. They combined 12 of 26 for 113 yards and took 3 sacks. It wasn't pretty. There's urgency for Tennessee. Robert Saleh, quote, talking about Cam Ward, looked like his mechanics were a bit more sped up than it has been. We can correct it when that's what the preseason is for. Saleh, the quarterback metric is third down, red zone, 2-minute drill. Those are the categories where the quarterback shines and pulls the teams for all. It was heavy money for the Titans this last week. That was basically the only line move that won. Let's bet it very late. And Saleh played his starters, which I'm not convinced we're going to see from Seattle this week, the defending champs. They've got bigger fish to fry. I do expect Tennessee money. We've already seen some Tennessee money. There are 1.5s and 2s out there. Those are gone right now. Would not be surprised if someone buys out the 2.5s in the not too distant future.
Teddy, always a pleasure to start the week with you here. Want to remind folks on the way out, nearly 1,000 people watching live. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in live. This is every single Monday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. on the West Coast. You tune in, we'll get you ready to rock here for betting NFL, whether it's preseason. We roll all the way through the Super Bowl, and we do some post-game after the Super Bowl as well. But Teddy, Code TEDDY50, you want to be a part of it? Obviously, tune in here. This part's free. This is all the information. Teddy is rocking and rolling. He starts his handicapping week for free with you right here. You want to hop on board all season long, Teddy? TEDDY50 will take 50 off, and it's something you're pretty excited about heading into this season.
No doubt, guys. I mean, look, I expect to win this year. I expect to win big this year. That's my, well, we're not going to the season with anything but high expectations. So join me. I encourage you if you're interested. Again, I understand it's not for everyone. You don't have to. I'm not going to twist your arm. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the comments. We appreciate the follows. I understand that buying picks isn't for everyone. But if you're interested, it's a good deal. Get on board. Let's partner up. Let's see if we can make some money. Again, TEDDY50 at checkout. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.
Appreciate y'all. Best of luck. And on the way out, hit that like button, subscribe, and consider joining up with us. Pro Football Survivor, $21 million on the line. Check it out at Splash Sports. You can use the code WagerTalk, and you get $100 you can use towards any other contest over at Splash. They have all kinds of daily fantasy stuff. So check it out, Splash Sports, WagerTalk. Going to be a hell of a year. For Teddy Covers, I'm Dan Alexander. We'll see you next time. Keep those comments coming. We'll see you in week